Today, we would like to talk about the similarities and differences of malware campaigns between Japan and Spain, and lessons we have learned about how to share information and maintain collaborative channels. From the next slide, we will introduce ourselves and talk about the background to the session. My name is Masato Ikegami. I'm a malware analyst at Canon IT Solutions. This is my first time giving a presentation at an international conference, so I'm a little nervous, but very excited to be here. Now, I'd like to hand it over to Joseph.
Thank you, Masato-san. I'm Josep Albors. I'm the head of awareness and research of ontinet.com, and I've been in the cybersecurity field for 19 years now. My main work is to analyze malware campaigns, do some threat hunting, and also talk with press and give conferences and do some teaching at universities. And you might be wondering, what does Japan and Spain have in common? Well, we both have very interesting places, historical places, big monuments to visit. We both have great food, please enjoy it. And we both have great culture that goes thousands of years ago. And actually, starting this year, the World Economic Forum has designated both Spain and Japan as the second and the third best touristic destinations, just behind the United States. So we're also strong in touristic destinations. So if you're thinking about going to have some nice holidays, you can stay here in Japan, which is great. I've been 15 times, so yeah, I can prove it. Or you can come to Spain. We will be more than happy to have you there. But unlikely, this ranking is also true when it comes to malware detection. For example, if we take a look on the telemetry provided by ESET from last year, we see that Japan, the United States, and Spain are the top 3 countries that have detected the most amount of malware, which is quite a coincidence if we take into consideration the previous slide. In our cases, Canon, as a big company, international, and Ontinet, smaller company from Spain, have something in common. We both are the national ESET distributors. And in this case, we share ESET telemetry because we can see what is happening on each country. That's quite convenient because we can have our own feeds and also look at the feeds provided by this security company. And what we have observed in recent years is that there is similar malware campaigns targeting both countries. Of course, there are much more countries that have the same malware campaigns, especially the ones that are using email as an attack vector. But we see at the numbers, and we see that every 6 months, when we obtain this information from the telemetry, Japan, Spain, and maybe some other country like the United States or Turkey in Europe is also receiving this big amount. And we asked ourselves some years ago, why? What do we have in common? First, I want to clarify something. Of course, we are different countries with different culture, with different malware campaigns. And in Spain, right now, it's very common to have campaigns targeting Android users. Why? Well, Android in Spain is having 85% of the market, which is quite logical for the attackers to use this platform. We have seen recently some campaigns that are offering like jobs, very easy ones. You just need to click I like it into one YouTube video or one TikTok publishing, and they provide you money. That's funny because for the first payment, they actually provide you the money. They want you to keep earning money in that way until they ask you to provide them more money than the one that you're receiving. But I want to take you back some years ago, end of 2020. Maybe you remember an interesting campaign targeting Android users that was called FluBot, or was named FluBot after the detection, because the first cases were detected in Spain at the end of 2020. And thanks to the warning by some malware analyzers, we were able to obtain the first samples that then were replicated in other countries several weeks later. This campaign was quite interesting because they were posting themselves as the National Post Office, and they were saying that there was something for you, which is a coincidence because in Spain we were in the middle of the Christmas campaign where everybody was buying something online and expecting to receive a package. That was quite interesting, and it was replicated in other countries some weeks later, countries like Japan. If you don't know Japanese, this says the same as in Spanish, well, something like you're expecting to receive a package, please click on this link. But the interesting thing is not the message translated. The interesting thing is this: some users in Japan received this message from a Spanish number. So that was raising some alerts from my side. And that's when I contacted Masato. And we started to analyze these campaigns, we obtained some samples, and we kind of tried to compare the templates that they were using. We then compared with other countries when they were using the same, but it was interesting because the first templates were observed around Europe, some in the US, and then Japan, which is known to have a huge amount of iOS Apple devices. So it was a bit strange for us. Now my colleague Masato will explain about Infostealers trends.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the main topic of our presentation. We have communicated closely about Infostealers. This line graph shows the number of Infostealers detected in Japan and Spain. As you noticed, Infostealer campaigns often occur almost simultaneously in both countries. The only difference is that in Spain, there is a detection peak in the middle of November. This is because malware operators started a campaign targeting the Christmas shopping season. In addition to this, the financial year in Spain ends in December. So closing tasks could be targets. Let's look back over the last couple of years. Emotet has received a lot of attention in Japan. JNSA, the non-profit Japan Network Security Association, reported that over 300 organizations were affected with Emotet. This is just the tip of the iceberg because only published cases are included here. We have counted the attribution data of organizations affected by Emotet. Most of these were enterprises, but also included medical institutions and universities. The important point here is the target is not always a large-scale company. So how was Emotet in Spain? Like in Japan, Emotet was the biggest threat to Spanish organizations. As in Japan, most victims were small and medium enterprises. Here is an example of Emotet spams found in Spain. The body of the email is written in Spanish, but the office template is often in English. This is an example of email found in Japan. Like the Spanish case, the body of the email is written in Japanese and the office templates in English. This is just one example. There are many different types of the templates. In the next slide, Joseph will talk about the characteristics of organizations affected by Infostealers.
Thank you, Masato-san. So we know that we are both being targeted by several malware campaigns, as it happens around the world in other organizations. But what do Japanese and Spanish organizations have in common? From the first side, you can see, you can think that not so much. But we talked and we discussed and we got some points that we have in common. Like employees doesn't usually review the email authenticity or where it comes from, and depending if they are looking at an email that's coming from a provider or that's coming from a client or a very well-known organization, they just open it because they want to close all the cases as soon as possible. Actually, there's one coincidence that we have between Japan and Spain, is that if the email comes from the boss or the manager, it has maximum priority. They don't even discuss if this email has been sent by that manager. If it's something picky or if it's something strange being requested in this email, just almost nobody will contact that manager because they don't want to disturb him or her. And also, we have long working hours in both countries, which means staying in front of a computer, doing something or doing not so much, and expecting not so many mails to come into our inbox, and as soon as it comes, to get rid of them as soon as possible. In Japan, it's over the same situation. The only difference is that the complicated cybersecurity rules that exist in any company must be accomplished. We also have those rules in Spain. Thing is that not so many companies apply them, at least based in our experience. There's a lot of work going on to try to help those companies, but still they don't take cybersecurity seriously. And important thing, what are the targets of the Infostealers? By the name, you can decide that, okay, they are stealing information, but they are not looking for a TXT file that is in the middle of the desktop of the victim with all the credentials. Oh, that can also happen, but they are looking for specific applications that are used daily in almost every department of an organization, like web browsers. A lot of users store their credentials to access several important sites in their web browsers. So that's where the Infostealers go to steal them. Also, they are targeting email clients because once they obtain the credentials, they can see what have been the communications between this victim and their clients and the providers. We have to take also in consideration that most of the targeted targets in this type of Infostealer campaigns are accounts, sales, all the departments that handle money. They want to go directly to the point. If this isn't enough, they also target FTP and VPN clients. Why? Because they can sell these credentials to access brokers. People that can use those credentials or sell them to other malware actors, and they can go inside that organization, steal the information, and then, for example, do a ransomware attack or threaten them on publishing that information. But they don't stop there. Why not attack also the gamers? I mean, they have a lot of video games application or instant messaging that can be used to sell those credentials and sell it to a black market, which is very happy to pay for them. And if the victim happens to have some cryptocurrency wallets, excellent. That's a direct hit. They just need to obtain that cryptocurrency and operate with them, exchange it for fiat money, or use it to buy some services with other cyber criminals. It's a win-win situation for the cyber criminals. What type of templates do we see? Actually, in Spain, we're seeing a lot of campaigns back from 2-3 years ago. And the main Infostealers that we are detecting are Agent Tesla and Fortbook. They are not the only ones. Of course, we are detecting Redline Stealer and many other variants, but those two are among the top 10 every time that we do a review of what has happening in the last 6 months. They use bank templates, they use post offices templates, they use any template that can be interesting or can catch the attention of the victim that's working in the accounts department, what can be interesting for the attackers, and they will use and reuse it. That's something that we have observed, that they have been utilizing the same templates, the ones that have worked well for many, many years, at least 2 or 3 years. In Japan, it's the same. They provide templates and they reutilize them. And the objective is to catch enough the attention for the victim to open the touch file. Usually, it is a compressed file because by using this technique, not so advanced, they can avoid the mark of the web from Windows. So they can try to bypass some security measures. Luckily enough for us, if you have a proper security solution installed in your computer, most of these campaigns will be detected and blocked. But as I said before, in Spain, a lot of companies happen to not take cybersecurity seriously, and not even the more basic measures are taken in those campaigns. So the criminals, in this case, get their objective, which is infect this small and medium business. Now Masato will talk about how it's possible that we're still seeing all vulnerabilities being exploited.
Okay, let's look at the exploits against all vulnerabilities in Japan and Spain. We've seen a lot of exploit attacks in both countries. Among them, the most exploited vulnerability is CVE 2017-11882. Attackers mainly target small and medium enterprises with a high success rate. Let's think why a vulnerability that has already fixed 7 years ago is still being exploited. There are 2 reasons for this. The first one is that companies in both countries are still using unpatched old software, especially in SMEs without an IT department. The patch management is not properly implemented. Secondly, the builders make it easy to attack without special knowledge. Here is an example of an email sent to Spanish user. The email attached a specially crafted Microsoft Office file. And these templates were found in Japan. Attackers cleverly encourage users to open the attached file and click the button on the yellow bar. Once the protective view is disabled, the malicious code is executed. Okay, from here, I'd like to talk about malicious JavaScript. Malicious JavaScript trends in Japan and Spain are very similar. Particularly, a malicious JavaScript variant called JS Agent PHC was widely observed in both countries. We counted over 10,000 compromised websites and found that over 93 URLs were WordPress-based contents. Some of web pages were associated with universities and medical institutions. JS Agent PHC consists of a malicious code responsible for executing the next phase of the infection. This script calls a malicious PHP script on the web page's compromise. Then this PHP script downloads and executes a payload from a command and control server and run it on the victim's device. The detection of these variants increased by 136% in the second half of 2023 compared to the first half of the year. Japan, Spain, and the United States were the countries where it was most commonly found. From September to November alone, ESET detected more than 14,500 websites compromised with this variant. From the next slide, Joseph will talk about the scam trend in Japan and Spain.
Thank you, Masato-san. So we have seen several examples of campaigns that have been used by the cybercriminals to steal some type of credential of information from the user. And there is one topic that sometimes goes overlooked, especially in conference, which is scam trends. And they have been growing a lot. And the use of artificial intelligence helped to that. In Japan and Spain, we have seen detection spikes, several spikes around last year, but with some difference. We have coincidences, for example, on the campaigns that we'll see later, and we have this coincidence in time, but we have some unique characteristics, for example, in Spain. In my country, scam campaigns can last weeks or even months. If the criminals get enough benefit from that scam campaign, and we have seen that they do, they can be going on, and try to get the maximum amount of benefit from those campaigns. That is not so common in Japan. There's something that we found the difference. A classic, and that's something that I got surprised when Masato-san told me, are the technical support scam. I started talking about technical support scam about 12 years ago, when my colleagues from other countries, especially UK and the US, they advised me, be aware of this type of scam. Right now they're using English, but it's probably not so far than since they started using Spanish. And they did. A bit of a broken Spanish, but they did. Masato told me that they are doing the same in Japanese. I couldn't recognize this difference from this scammers Japanese from the real Japanese because I'm not good at speaking this language, but I can do it with the Spanish. If you can see, this is the typical Japanese template that imitates Microsoft. This is a recent one. In Spain, we have been observing this type of scams for many years. This is from 2-3 years ago, but we have seen also recent ones. They use the similar template. In a way, they just want to alarm the user and make him or her call and get an AnyDesk connection to obtain all the information they can from the computer. They want to steal info. It's another way of info stealing. Basic one, probably, but it's still working in our countries. Other campaigns that have been worked quite well in both our countries are the ones related to travels. In both countries, we have national companies that are working to move people around the country or outside the countries, like our national flight company, Iberia, or the JR in Japan, the train company, and they use it as a template to try to lure some victims into their campaign, to click on a link, to provide them the credit card numbers and steal all the amount of money that they can from that credit card. Very simple, but effective. And more recently, we have seen some campaigns that are around the world, but we have seen and compared with both countries. For example, the ones that are wanting you to invest in some cryptocurrency. We see the same campaign with the same template using different people from Spain, famous people from Spain, famous people from Japan, but you can see that there is a logo of a newspaper, other newspapers using as a logo to gain confidence from the user and the victim. And there's a long story being told. At the end, they want you to click on a link and they provide you an access to a cryptocurrency investment platform where you will lose all your money. That's something that in Spain has been very big, also in Japan. And recently we got the news that both investment and romance scam, it's in Japan worth 45.5 billion yen, which is quite a big amount of money for such a simple campaign. Now, for the final part of this presentation, okay, we got all this data. We have shared it with each other, but we wanted to go a bit more further. So we said, why don't we build our own security operations center? As I told you at the beginning, Ontinet is not a big company in Spain. We are well known because we have been more than 30 years, but we are like 70 people working there. It's not Canon. But we wanted to obtain that data. And we wanted to build our SOC. We have already contacts with many other companies in Spain, but we wanted to go to the experts. So last year we attended first regional symposium in Bilbao, which is in the north part of Spain. Very nice place. Please go there. And we were with very good presenters. We saw very nice talks. But the most important thing is that we were networking. We were helping each other. Well, mostly they were helping us because people on this type of events want to share the knowledge. And what we learned is, first, we need to try and choose all the tools and elements that we want for our SOC. So we started to try, we started to choose which ones fits or are more suitable for the needs that we have. We did kind of a configuration in our SOC where we have some elements that provide us with feeds, some elements that provide us with logs. We use some of those logs for our own internal security. Other ones, we use it for feeding our CM. We do some automation, of course, because if we are not as much people as other companies and with this to be automated, generate alerts if they are critical. And the other things is to obtain indicators of compromise. Because with these indicators of compromise, the ones that we obtain and the ones that we obtain from other feeds, external honeypots, or the main analyzer that I will explain later, are very useful for us to feed our threat intelligence and to share this with the ones that want to obtain this information. We have been doing some pilot campaigns in Spain, and we will be more than happy to share it with anyone that wants. We started with the automated email analysis because for us it was the most easy way to learn how to do it. So we have several ways of inputting it manually when we find an email that's suspicious. When some rule is activated, for example, the mail contains an attachment file which is an executable, Visual Basic script, or PowerShell, or any other suspicious extension, and also because of the malware detection provided by ESET in this case. We feed this to a platform called the Fish, and then we separate the attachments. We have set up a CAPE system to obtain the malware analysis, and then we use Cortex as our threat intelligence to determine if that email is a phishing email, a scam email, or a malware email. And then we have the results plus the IOCs. And what we do with them? Well, our idea is to share it because that's it, why we are here. Sharing is caring. As much information as we can share, we'll be better protected, not just in Spain, but as you have seen, also in other companies around the world. We can use external feeds, public external feeds to obtain this information, and we can share all the feeds and all the information that we generate with public and private companies. But also something very valuable that we've learned from that first event in Bilbao is that intelligence is nothing if you don't categorize it. So we started to learn which tags are the most valuable. We generate tags, for example, for countries that are being targeted. In our case, mostly of them, of course, are for Spain. We also trying to use the detection date to do some campaign correlations to see if something that we have already seen or is an ongoing campaign or if it's something new. This is always interesting to separate it. And we do some attack classification to see if it's just another campaign trying to spread some phishing or is something more serious, because we also been working on detecting APT campaigns targeting Spanish companies in this case. So our next steps is to get into the liaison program, to identify one sponsor that would like to help us joining, because we have seen that this community is very helpful. And I think we can provide also some interesting insight and malware indicators of compromise that can be helpful for everyone. Lastly, my colleague Masato will do some words.
In conclusion, we'd like to make the following points. Malware campaigns launched in one country, often launched in a different country days or weeks later. So cross-border information sharing and cooperation is so important. We can learn from the points in common to enhance our cybersecurity. We hope this will help your cross-border cooperation. Thank you for your attention from my side, and
ありがとうございます to everyone. And you can contact us while in the event, or you can send us an email, whatever you like. We will be more than happy to hear your suggestions, your questions, anything that you have to tell us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm Vilus from Lithuania. I really enjoyed the sequence of MISP encoding, and I'm trying to as well think of what attributes and what objects to use, the best way to use to encode the not too much information, but only relevant information. So are you using only attributes, or you push into particular objects and link objects and then share?
Well, that's something that I really need to ask with the guys that are really handling the Security Operations Center, but we can put in contact, and we'll be more than happy to share that information with you. In fact, something that we have think on is maybe it's useful, not just for us, but for other people, to have some kind of Dockerization, to have a container, and everything that we have set up that can be used by other companies, but something that we are trying to explore right now. So let's get in touch, and we'll provide you the information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions from the audience? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
thank you.